Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 mini-series with the Los Angeles Angels. And the 2028 offseason is about to begin today. Fantastic regular season for our Angels with a 102-60 record, the best record in all in baseball, and a second straight AL West title. Definitely have made pretty significant progress over our 4 years with the Angels. Winning percentage in the 300s the first year, 400s the second year, 500s the third year, and in the 600s this year. So if we keep that up, we're going to be undefeated in just a few more seasons. Not expecting that to happen, though. Going to cover a few housekeeping items here, checking in on owner goals, minor league team, development lab, and some of our former players before we get into a few trades that we've made and a more substantive free agent plan than the one that we discussed when we were going through our annual roster review last episode after our great regular season ended with a extremely disappointing 3-0 sweep out of the playoffs in the ALDS to our division rival Texas Rangers. Talked briefly about the owner goals last episode. Don't see ourselves doing a ton to achieve some of these. Power hitter, as you can see, we have made a trade for Emmanuel Rodriguez that we'll talk about shortly. Improving our draft record kind of is what it is, although thanks to Andres Rodriguez and his fantastic rookie season, we've made some progress there. And other than continuing to work on our bullpen and improving our team generally, I don't know how much specific action we can take to improve our record in extra inning games. Unfortunately, the discussion option for all three of these goals, if we wanted to change them, is extending 40-year-old Jacob deGrom, who's wrecked as far as his injury proneness and looking for $17 million. So we're not going to have the opportunity to swap out any of these goals, unfortunately. Quick look at some of the top prospects in our organization, which we didn't do specifically in the last episode. Sean Gamble, who we picked second overall back in 2025, number 24 prospect in baseball at this point. Hit over 300 in AA and AAA last year in his first two forays through those levels, and hit 286 in 21 major league at-bats. Expect that he's going to be an important player for us in the not-too-distant future. Don't know exactly where he's going to be playing next year, but would think that his left-handed bat, defensive quality, defensive versatility, speed, and a bat that we think can be a bit above average is definitely something that will be helping supplement us at the major league level next season. Heriberto Garza, who was our prime IAFA signing this year, listed as the number 25 prospect in baseball. He just turned 17 a month ago, so he still hasn't even left the international complex, but still have pretty high hopes for him. Jake Riley, similar to Gamble, made his major league debut in September. Our first round pick from a year ago was pretty good in 16 and a third major league innings. Actually, he was outstanding, allowing just 5 hits, walking 2 while striking out 18. He will certainly be competing for a spot in the rotation this upcoming year. We're going to have him in the development lab again. He's been kind of an experiment of ours. We don't normally take players with low work ethic and lots of other negative personality traits, but Riley's development with a focus in the development lab has been pretty solid thus far, and we think he's going to be an important pitcher for us. So I should probably, going forward, be more willing to at least consider players with some negative personality traits, particularly if when we get to our long play, I've got a team where we can invest heavily in player development and coaching, as we have here in Los Angeles. Our fourth top 50 prospect, Tyler Koopman, 5th round pick from a year ago, spent the year in high A and double A, where he was very effective at both levels. Combined for 99 strikeouts in just 63 innings at those two levels. Control, the potential issue for him, but his fastball is already in the triple digits, and we think he could be a very important reliever for us in the not too distant future. Tony Godinez, who was an IAFA signing of ours in 2026, has unfortunately had 2 injury-plagued seasons in the DSL, was much more productive in his first year. This year, hit just .239 with only 1 homer and 138 at-bats. Still think that he could become an important player for us, and he will, along with all of these other guys that we've talked about who aren't still at the international complex, be in the development lab for us when we talk about what we're doing there shortly. Also have 6 more prospects ranked between number 101 and 200. Manny Cruz was a 4th-round pick of ours a year ago in 2027, went 2-5 with an ERA of just over 5 in rookie ball as a 19-year-old this year. Still think he could be an interesting pitcher for us down the line. Danny LaCroix, who was our 5th-round pick this year in 2028, did not get to make his major league debut, but he is listed as the 134th prospect in baseball. Another guy we drafted this year, Rick James, who we picked 27th overall, didn't get to make his debut yet, but still have high hopes for him. Andy Kraft is a guy with a bit more experience, 2nd-round pick from 2026. Was 3-1 with a 2.20 ERA for us in Class A this year. Unfortunately, had some injury issues during the season, and then ulnar nerve entrapment right at the beginning of September, which ended his season for good. So although he's still normal in terms of his injury proneness, injury-plagued season this year, but would hope that he could start next year in high A ball and hopefully get up to double A. Still really like the personality, really like his stamina, and think if he reaches his true potential, he can be a pretty important pitcher for the Angels in the not too distant future. 2 final top 200 prospects. Reliever Zach Steiner, we picked in the 3rd round this year. He'll be making his professional debut next season. And then Matt Helland, who we picked in the 7th round this year, is also listed as a top 200 prospect. The center fielder doesn't jump off the page for me in terms of his ratings, and obviously he lasted till the 7th round, so lots of other teams hit a similar opinion on him, but he is, for whatever reason, even though he hasn't played a game since he was drafted, went from being a 7th rounder to a top 200 prospect in baseball. And overall, our minor league system ranks 6th overall in the majors, which is still pretty significant improvement from what we took over. Turning now to what we're going to do in the development lab, a lot of familiar names here. Jake Riley, going to work on his control. Andres Rodriguez, potential rookie of the year, going to be working on his gap power. Sean Gamble, who we talked about, trying to harness the home run power that we think is out there for the 22-year-old. Tyler Koopman going to work on his control. Another young prospect, Mike Scott, an 11th round pick from 2027, who has just kind of blossomed into a very interesting relief prospect for us. Going to work on control for him as well. Tony, the Hondo Hurricane Godinez, similar to Put Rodriguez, going to be working on his gap power. And then a few more experienced players. Anthony Volpe going to working on generate his bat speed. Christian Scott on secondary pitch improvement, coming off of a major league or a AL leading 17 wins, but still think there's a lot of work to do on some of his secondary pitches, so hopefully we'll have progress there. Taj Bradley going to work on his control as we try to get everything out of him. And then a new addition, we're going to talk about our trade shortly, but we did bring on another reliever, Carlos Espinoza from the Yankees, going to be working on his pitch movement. He has been a solid right-handed reliever for them the last couple of years, and we're glad to bring him on board to bolster that bullpen and hopefully ultimately improve our record in extra inning games to make Moreno happy and improve our record overall, particularly in the playoffs. And before we talk about some of the trades that we have made, check in on some of our former players and former guys that we thought about bringing on board. Drew Rasmussen in Tampa Bay, who we've had an idea or an opportunity to trade for in recent years. 3-9 with a 4.55 ERA, so he had a rough season. Still signed for pretty significant money for another 4 years, and he's fragile physically. So the WAR dropped from 1.2 to 1.2 this year after being over 4 in each of the previous 2 seasons. So probably dodged a bullet by not bringing that contract on board. Juan Moreno, the international free agent from a couple years ago, did not follow up his MVP / Rookie of the Year / Gold Glove / All-Star / Silver Slugger debut in 2027 with his big year this year. Had some injury issues, but still hit 265, 37 homers, and 83 ribbies in 127 games, 148 WRC plus, and a 4.0 WAR. Definitely a miss. We did ultimately offer him a very similar deal to the one that he signed with the Phillies. We offered him about $10 million less. He was looking for about $46 million a year in the counter offer to us, as you may remember, and we just decided that was a bit too much. Adley Rutschman, who we traded away in a big trade to bring Schwellenbach on board, had a solid season for Atlanta in his first full year with them this year. Basically a league average offensive player, put up a 3.2 WAR. They signed the switch hitting catcher to a extension to be their future at the position, but he's already in his early 30s now, so I think that trade worked out for us. And then Mike Trout, who we originally traded to Baltimore a few years ago at this point. You can see right before the trade deadline in 2025. And Rutschman was our key return from that trade. Essentially a league average offensive player at this point. Hit just 209, 28 homers, 64 ribbies, played 126 games, half a win above replacement. So ultimately, I think it was the right decision for us to move on from Trout, as fun as it would have been to try to get him a World Series title. So we've completed 4 trades here on the opening day of the off season, and I think there's a common theme that you'll see. One theme that we typically do when we are running a team is getting rid of players once they've run out of their options if it's not 100% clear that they're going to be able to make our 26-man roster. And with the improvements we've made to our pitching staff over the last couple of years, we had a few pretty solid starting pitching prospects who met that criteria that we dealt away. The second thing is a little different, but it's well overdue. If you've been following us over these 4 years, we've had a lot of defensive issues at first base and then particularly left field. We've had too many DH types who don't bring anything to the table fielding-wise, playing in starting positions for us or platoon situations for us in the corner outfield / first base at times, and definitely DH. And I just had to clear the roster of those kind of people. We've got plenty of money to spend here with the Angels, and I'm just sick of having butchers out in left field particularly, and players on this team who are power hitters but don't really bring anything to the table other than a bat. And if they get cold, as Matt Wallner, who's now a member of the Yankees again, did after we picked him up before the trade deadline, they just don't contribute at all. And I'm sick of having players like that on the team. So already touched upon this. We picked up Carlos Espinoza, the really good-looking middle reliever / setup guy from the Yankees. And the Yankees were happy to take Matt Wallner back for him. View that as a win-win for us. He's set to make about $8.5 million next year, so it also cleans up more money off the books for us. Like the batting profile for Wallner, and he's been real productive at the major league level, except for with us. 119 career WRC plus, 124 home runs in 2,360 at-bats. But he was pretty brutal for us, hitting under 200 with 5 homers and 143 at-bats. The 81 WRC plus, by far the worst of his career. He was well below replacement level. So we shopped him to the entire league, and the most interesting guy we could get in return was Espinoza. The Yankees actually also threw in a couple of middling pitching prospect in Oscar Alvarado, brought him on board mainly just because he's a good personality, but he's fragile physically. Question how much of the potential the 20-year-old is really going to reach. And we also brought in a minor league third baseman, Terry Barrowman, another guy with a good personality. Don't really think he's a major leaguer. 24 years old, and highest level he's played at in the Yankees organization is high A ball. But they were willing to throw in those players, so we took them just to bring some more good personalities into our organization. Wallner, over his career outside of us, he's been a 120 WRC plus kind of guy, so he's been very productive, but didn't do it with us. And although he's better than some of the guys we've had in left field over the years, still below average in terms of his range. The opportunity to get a good young relief pitcher who's still making the major league minimum and still has options, although looking at what he's done in the majors with the Yankees with ERAs in the 3 over the last couple of years. Definitely made sense to try to bring him back into the organization. We sent Wallner back to the Yankees as part of this trade, but we also get a reunion with Mr. Espinoza, who we traded to the Yankees for Burleson, or with Burleson and Rada in that trade for Volpe, Selvage, and Josh Groves a few years ago. So we get our guy back, they get their guy back, and hopefully it works out well for both teams. We touched upon this earlier. We did get an outfielder, Emmanuel Rodriguez. Think that he is more what we're looking for. Don't think his bat is as good as Wallner's, although he should draw some walks. But he is much better defensively, so he's a guy that we're not going to be embarrassed to put out in left field for us. Hitting-wise, over the course of his major league career, 108 WRC plus, so has not been as good offensively as Wallner, but more the type of guy that we want to have on the team who can play very competent to good outfield defense. Actually, I'd say he can play good to very good outfield defense at any position. Coming off of the best year of his major league career, where he did have a 126 WRC plus, 22 homers, 38 ribbies for Minnesota. So glad to have him on board, and he is going to be slotted in as our starting left fielder against right-handed pitching, definitely, and possibly against left-handed pitching. Had to trade away a good pitcher to bring him on board, 24-year-old Luis Serna, who we picked up in that trade with the Yankees that we were just talking about. Was 11-7 with a 3.72 ERA in AAA. Did not allow a run over 5 major league innings this year. Looks like he can be a good, solid 4th or 5th starter. Unfortunately, he just completed his last option year, and I don't think right now he would make our 26-man roster coming out of spring training unless we had some injuries. So figured the opportunity to trade him away to a team that needs him more, pick up a good, solid corner outfielder who, while he's not a superstar, at least gives us more the type of player we want to play out there, who's not going to be a butcher defensively. Hopefully he can hit more than that 237 average, but he does have the ability to hit a few home runs and a good ability to draw walks. So we think he could be useful for us against right-handed pitching. Another pitcher who's out of options that we moved on from, and unfortunately the fans weren't happy about this, so we lost a couple points in fan interest, is Sam Aldegari, and we also included Alec Burleson, who was in AAA for us last year and pretty productive in this trade. This was basically just to get something in return. We actually shopped Aldegari for some minor league, or actually we didn't shop him for minor league prospects, but we ended up mainly getting minor league guys for him. The left-handed pitcher we think can have pretty good stuff, but he has not been productive in the majors over the last couple years, splitting both seasons, actually splitting the last 3 seasons between AAA and the majors. And he's another guy who was in his last option year and just didn't think he was going to make our major league roster. So we basically took what we could get for him. And it was basically a pool of youngsters. I don't know that any of them really turned into anything. They also gave us some cash. Raul Navarrete looks like maybe a poorly fielding 4th or 5th outfielder if he reaches his full potential. Dylan Dubovic, right fielder, good defensively, good speed. Question what the bat is going to become. Did hit over 300 in both rookie ball and A ball this year as a 21-year-old. Estevan Gallegos, 22-year-old minor league center fielder, another guy who looks most likely as 4th or 5th outfielder with a decent glove and decent speed if he reaches his full potential. And then a 16-year-old pitcher, Jesus Serrano. Not impressed with his stuff, but think his movement and control could be decent. Doesn't look like he's ever going to get out of the low 90s on the radar gun. So don't really think any of these guys are big impact players, but you never know. You can always get lucky, especially on a team like ours with good coaching and a big investment in player development. So we took what we could get for Aldegari and Burleson, and again, just trying to get anything in return for guys who we otherwise would possibly lose for nothing when they didn't make the major league roster coming out of spring training next year, and anyone could just grab them off the waiver wire. And the final trade to talk about is one where we had run out of the ability to shop players for major leaguers, so we were shopping for minors, and this is the exact same type of transaction as we did when we traded Wallner to the Yankees. Kyle Manzardo actually was reasonably productive for us as a DH last year against right-handed pitching, put up a 109 WRC plus for the year, but was actually he wasn't better than that against right-handed pitching. How does that make sense? It says he has a 65 WRC plus against lefties and a 107 WRC plus against righties. But he put up a higher 109 WRC plus. I must not understand something about the math behind that works, because it doesn't make sense to me that you could have a 109 WRC plus on the season when you were below that number against both left-handed and right-handed pitching. But perhaps I don't understand the new sophisticated stats as well as I should. Regardless, Manzardo is another guy who, quite honestly, similar to Wallner, has been a pretty productive hitter over the course of his major league career. 108 WRC plus, definitely can hit the ball out of the park, but he brings nothing to the table defensively. Basically forced to have him on the roster as a DH, and if we have to use him in the field, it's a very scary prospect. He's also a guy who was set to make not huge money this year. We certainly could have afforded him. Going to be making about $4.5 million most likely for Tampa. But I'm just sick of dealing with these guys who can only play first base, left field, or DH and can't even play that position competently defensively. So Wallner and Manzardo had to go. Got a couple of middling prospects in return. 23-year-old catcher Chris Hernandez looks like he can be decent defensively, and actually looks like he could have a little pop in his bat. The issue is that he's almost 24 years old, and he hasn't really proved much of anything with the bat. Hit 234 in rookie ball, 143 in A ball. They did promote him to Double A, and he went 3 for 4 in one game there at the end of the season. But looking at his contact and his avoid strikeout ratings, had 77 strikeouts this year and just 165 minor league at-bats. Question if he's ever going to really hit enough to be anything but a 4A kind of guy who we bring up when we've got a injury or two already to our major league catchers. Also picked up a minor league second baseman, Sergio Sotomayor. I think he can be a pretty good contact hitter, but the home run power and the eye, definitely a question. Don't really view him as a major league hitter. Hernandez was more interesting to us of those two players, although as we noted, we think he's got some limitations with the bat. But it was really just about getting whatever we could for Manzardo and starting to really build this team stronger defensively and not deal with the kind of revolving door of DHs and left fielders that we've had over these last couple of seasons. Can't say that we've had a revolving door at first base because Vlad Guerrero Jr. has been playing there pretty regularly since we signed him. But just want players with more flexibility, even if we weaken the offense a tiny bit, which we probably did. So salary arbitration-wise, with moving on from both Wallner and Manzardo, two arbitration-eligible players who are gone, along with the pitchers that we talked about who were also on major league contracts. So we've made offers to everyone else who's arbitration-eligible at this point, including the new addition, Emmanuel Rodriguez. Also made an offer to Gabe Spire to come back and be a lefty specialist in the pen with us for another couple seasons. We'll talk about Royce Lewis shortly. We have submitted the qualifying offer to him, but with the fact that with those moves that we've made, we've opened up a fair amount of money to spend. And, we've got an improved budget, which is over $300 million now. We've got a lot of financial flexibility at this point. And when we look at the potential free agents who could be out there, don't know that there's anyone we're obsessed with bringing back, but definitely feel like there's guys who could help us. Would love to add a guy like Garrett Crochet, but he's looking for almost $50 million a year. Just don't think that that's going to be practical for us to do, even with the money that we've got to spend. I mean, I guess it is possible to do. Just don't think that's the path that we are going to follow. The guy that we're kind of interested in learning more about and hoping that he will hit free agency is Spencer Strider. Now, I don't understand why we've got... I guess I do understand why we've got low scouting accuracy on Spencer Strider, because he missed the entire season here. So we're trying to scout him up again. But he's coming off of a torn UCL that he suffered at the end of last season, kept him out all year. Fragile physically at this point, but he was 11-5 with a 3.28 ERA his last year with the Braves in 2027. And supposedly he's only going to be looking for about $14 million. He's a guy who I think could be a nice addition for us. Again, not as good as Crochet, not as healthy as Crochet. Crochet seeking a potential third straight Cy Young Award for the Red Sox this year. Not inconceivable that they'll try to lock him up before he even hits free agency. I just don't know how I feel about $50 million on a pitcher. But I can't say it's not going to happen, but it's definitely not our first thought. I think we may look, if he hits free agency, seriously at Spencer Strider. And then when we look at the free agent hitters that are out there, I think we may make an offer to Royce Lewis. Now with Guerrero Jr. at first, Neto at second, Barger at third, and Volpe at short. We don't necessarily need him as a starter, and he was a utility guy for us this past year. Put up a 109 WRC plus, was pretty productive. Love the personality, love the defense, and think he's an above-average major league hitter, which he has proven with a 109 WRC plus over the course of his 7 seasons or parts of 7 seasons in the majors at this point. Going to be able to get him even more versatile defensively in spring training next year. He's looking for a lot of money, especially for a guy that we're not necessarily envisioning as a starter for us. But if we do bring Lewis on board, that potentially gives us an opportunity to move Guerrero Jr. to a full-time DH role. He's coming off of his best season with us, and he's made progress defensively as a first baseman, so I don't know if that's the base case for what we're going to do, but Neto has missed time with injuries every season with us. Barger has been really good for us, but still seems to be outplaying his ratings, and Volpe is fine. I don't mind having another above-average major league infielder on our squad. I know it seems kind of crazy to potentially be spending $20 million a year for a guy who may only be in the starting lineup for us against left-handed pitching. But having Lewis on board would give us a ton of redundancy as far as our infield. Professional hitter who's a good fielder and a great influence in the clubhouse. And also if someone is interested in blowing us away with a trade for a younger guy like a Neto or a Barger, Lewis gives us the flexibility to potentially do that over this off season. And even if we spend 20-ish million a year on him, still leaves us with 35-ish million to spend this off season if there's an international free agent who blows us away, if we decide to go after Strider. And we certainly have other guys that we could try to trade away, most notably Joan Duran, who's in the final year of his contract next year at $20 million. If we did decide that we wanted to potentially go crazy and go in or all in on potentially bringing Crochet on board, I think even with an offer out there to Lewis, it's something that we could do if we wanted to. So nice to be playing on a team that playing with a team that's got a lot of money to spend, as we have here with the Los Angeles Angels. So we're going to make an offer to Royce Lewis, and I know some of you probably don't like the money that we're going to spend on him, and I can't say I disagree with it. Going to try to get him less than the 22-ish million that he's looking for. Try to get a little more team optionality in there as well. Might have to lie and promise him a role in the starting lineup, although I don't generally want to do that. But we'll see if we can get him for a number that's a bit more palatable for us. And I don't know that Lewis is going to go for this, but we'll see what he thinks. It's a deal that offers an average of a bit over $18 million a year over the 5 years that he's looking for. So $3.5 million a year less than he's looking for. Threw in a team option in the 4th season, which he's not going to like. Didn't promise him a starting role, which he's definitely not going to like. Did bump up the All-Star and MVP bonuses. Don't know that that's going to offset the lower money, the more optionality for us, and the fact that we're basically telling him he's likely to be a super utility guy for us. But I think if he'd think about this, I think it could be a really nice transaction for us, and my hunch is we're going to have to offer him a bit more. Yeah, he's actually looking for more money now, wants the starting lineup guaranteed. So we'll probably have to put a bit more money into this deal if we want to get something that he's going to think about seriously. And we've got an offer for Lewis, structured the way he wants, 5-year deal with a player option for the 5th season. It's an average of $20 million a year, but $18 million for these first 3 years, and then $23 million for the 4th year and the potential 5th year. We're guaranteeing him the starting lineup spot that he wants, and we actually increase the All-Star and MVP bonuses a bit from what he was looking for. I think he'll probably take this back. There is potential, given Lewis's skill set, that he could also be a starting corner outfielder for us. So he's a guy who just gives us a ton of optionality if we have injuries. And as I said, it's not inconceivable if we traded away a Neto, or we traded away a Barger, or Barger just gets too expensive, or if we get more exotic and we moved on from a guy like Kyle Tucker, that Royce Lewis could end up in the lineup every day. Obviously, you never know about injuries. We've already talked about Neto from that front. So I don't think it's 100% guaranteed that we're lying to him when we're promising him this starting lineup role. Obviously, if he's not in the starting lineup, he'll likely end up complaining about that to us. But we are going to ask for a response on this. And he still says he's looking for more money. I'd love to have him on board. But I don't want to go crazy to bring him back. So I think we're going to hold tight for the time being. We have given him that qualifying offer. I don't think he'll accept it. But honestly, if he did and he came back at that number for just a 1-year commitment for us, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But I'll continue to think about what we might want to do or not do with Mr. Lewis over the coming weeks. Might revisit things before we get to free agency filings in a little over 3 weeks. But at this point, I'd like to regroup, think about it a little more, and see what goes on with some of the arbitration-eligible players. Hopefully we'll get them all signed. Hopefully, ultimately, some of them are popular enough that we'll get back a little bit of the fan interest that we've lost over this season. We went from 86 to 76 during the season, despite having a 100-win team that had the best record in baseball. And then we lost another 2 points when we traded away Mr. Aldegaray earlier today. So hopefully we can make some of that up. And as we're thinking about what we might want to do with Royce Lewis, starting to get some of our arbitration-eligible players signed, and also some of the coaches we've needed to round out our organization signed. Colin Snyder, Spencer Schwellenbach, who the fans were excited about, Dylan Cruz, Garrett McDaniels, Addison Barger, Ryan Wallner, Cade Smith, Manuel Rodriguez, the recently acquired, all going to be back. Have agreed to a new first base coach in John Halland after our previous first base coach retired. Think he'll be a nice asset to the team. Is expected to have only average relationships with the major league team, but as a first base coach, he brings a lot of skill to the table. He's excellent in in-game running, and you can see he's excellent or outstanding at coaching all of the various positions defensively, whether it's defensive catching, infield defense, or outfield defense, as well as running. And he's also got a personality that should work well with the rest of the team, the rest of the coaching staff more accurately. So happy to have him on board. The signing of Schwellenbach got us back the 2 points we lost from moving on from Aldegaray. So in terms of what these guys have accomplished over the courses of their careers, for whatever reason, seems like the fans underestimating the contributions of Schwellenbach and overestimating Aldegaray and the potential that he might have once had. But regardless, made a little progress there. Unfortunately, Christian Scott, the only arbitration-eligible player left, still waiting to hear from Gabe Spire. So looks like fan interest is going to be a lot lower than it was when we got out of spring training this past season, which is, again, a little disappointing given how well we played on the field. And we'll probably take a big hit when the rental DeGrom, who pitched only 8 games for us, moves on as well. So I know I'm always complaining about fan interest, and I know that the developers at OOTP made some changes to it in this new version of the game, but still not necessarily working the way that I would think it was. But the way that I think it should work is that I should just have fans loving every decision I make. Pretty simple. And we've now gotten both Christian Scott and Gabe Spire signed. Also got a minor league pitching coach signed. So making some progress, getting some international, or not some international, some minor league free agent contracts signed with guys in our organization as well. So definitely making some progress. Still, as we head to the beginning of award season, ultimately going to have to decide what we want to do, if anything, with Royce Lewis. I mean, we offered him $20 million a year over 5 years, essentially, with the structure he wanted, guaranteed him a starting lineup spot, gave him bigger bonuses than he was looking for MVP or All-Star. As good a player as he is, I might be willing to let him hit the open market if he rejects our qualifying offer, which, given that we offered him an average of $20 million a year over 5 years, I can't see how he's going to take a contract that's 1 year for about $20.5 million from us. And it's very conceivable that if he does hit free agency, that if we get into a bidding war for him, if we decide he's the way to go, we might have to spend more on him than we had anticipated. But he's definitely not giving us any type of a discount to sign early. So at this point, I think it makes sense to wait and see if there's perhaps a great middle infielder, international free agent out there who's younger and better than Royce Lewis. I mean, probably only a 10 or 15% chance that we get exactly what we're looking for in the international free agent market, but it's not impossible. And it does seem over the last few years that there have been some pretty interesting international free agents on the market. So with the price tag Lewis is looking for, I think I'm inclined to let him test free agency. Doesn't mean that we won't look to bring him back, but without making that commitment to him, it also does make us more realistic potential players for the likes of Garrett Crochet if we are not locked up with the money that we were potentially going to give to Lewis. Have gotten a scouting report back on Spencer Strider, so feel very high scouting accuracy on him, which is good. The stuff still exceptional. Movement and control, both average. He's really only looking for the $14 million range, and the Braves let him hit free agency. I think that could be a real nice addition to our pitching staff with Schwellenbach, Bradley, King, Scott, and the youngster Riley. Kind of feel like we've already got 5 pretty good to very good major league starters lined up for next year. But with some of the guys who are out of options that we have moved on from, traded away in the case of Aldegari and Cerna, and some others that we're just going to be non-tendering this offseason, and then we're not going to be making an offer to Roansy Contreras. Major league starting pitching depth is going to be a little light, and even though if everyone's healthy, we'd have a pretty good starter working out of the bullpen, I still think strongly considering bringing Strider on board if he's available is a direction that we might go. And no Gold Gloves and no Mariano Rivera awards for our Angels this year. Not that we were necessarily expecting anything along those lines. I think that we probably do have some candidates for Silver Slugger, though. First base with Vlad Guerrero Jr., center fielder with the youngster Andres Rodriguez, prime among those positions. And with Andres Rodriguez, we think there's a good chance that he could win Rookie of the Year as well. So might get a little more interesting news on the award front over the next couple of days. And I had the Silver Sluggers handicapped pretty well, as Vlad Guerrero Jr. with his 300 average, 36 homers, 110 runs scored, 121 ribbies, wins the Silver Slugger at first base. And Andres Rodriguez as a rookie, 261 average, 34 homers, 145 WRC plus is your American League Silver Slugger in center field. We'll move forward to tomorrow and figure out if Rodriguez can add a Rookie of the Year award to the Silver Slugger. My hunch is he will, and we did. Rookie of the Year for Andres Rodriguez, and importantly, and this is something that was talked about a lot this past off season, and the first time I'm experiencing it in the new version of the game, but a prospect promotion incentive for Andres Rodriguez winning Rookie of the Year. We're going to get a supplemental first-round draft pick, so that's a good feature to have in the game this year. Definitely makes it a little more challenging to try to manipulate service time. Actually, it's not more challenging to manipulate service time. That's still very easy to do. It just makes the cost of potentially manipulating service time a little bit higher, because although we'd going to have to be paying Rodriguez a little more early than if we had manipulated his service time, in exchange for that, we just earned a supplemental first-round pick by having him win the American League Rookie of the Year award. Not surprisingly, he was a unanimous winner after a monster season with that 6.5 WAR. He is a draft pick of ours that has worked out really well. We're psyched when he dropped to 6th for us overall, took a risk on a guy out of the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown, and he has become everything we could have hoped in terms of his ability to play center field for us, and think he's going to do nothing but get better over the next few years, given his great personality and the fact that we think there's still a fair amount of untapped potential for Mr. Rodriguez. And looking at the big awards in both the AL and the NL, Garrett Crochet, your unanimous Cy Young Award winner, so he's now won 3 Cy Young Awards in a row. Still has not been signed by the Red Sox, so a potential to make a ton of money as a free agent if the Red Sox let the lefty hit the free agent market, having won 3 consecutive Cy Young Awards. Spencer Schwellenbach, who was 14-9 with a 3.12 ERA, finished 6th in the voting for us. Over in the National League, another unanimous Cy Young Award winner, Yamamoto from the Dodgers, with his first Cy Young Award. He's won a couple of Gold Gloves also. 15-4 with a league best 1.92 ERA and 7.9 WAR. So a monster season for Yamamoto. The youngsters Painter, Skeens, and Christian Mena finished 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the voting. Skeens 9-2 this year in an injury-plagued year. 1.64 ERA. The issue is he pitched only 115 innings. Partially torn labrum that kept him out for 3 months, but he did come back from that during the season and was pretty effective after it. But certainly some risk that that becomes a more significant issue going forward. American League MVP in a very split vote. Looks like 5 different players got first place votes, including Garrett Crochet, Julio Rodriguez, R. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Wyatt Langford, who was MVP of the divisional series when the Rangers beat us. But Gunnar Henderson ultimately is your AL MVP. 269 average, 32 homers, and 106 ribbies with a 142 WRC plus for the 27-year-old shortstop. Put up a 7.4 WAR for the Orioles. Mentioned that Guerrero Jr. finished 3rd in the voting for us. He had by far the best of his 3 seasons with us this year. 300 average, 36 homers, 121 ribbies, and won his first Silver Slugger away from Toronto. The youngster Andres Rodriguez, the Rookie of the Year Silver Slugger, finished 6th in the voting. Those were the 2 members of the Angels who got attention. Over in the National League, 3 different guys received first place votes. Yamamoto, James Wood of the Nationals, who had a monster season, 307, 39 homers, and 103 ribbies. But it's the 25-year-old right fielder, T.J. White, 289 average, led the league with 51 homers, 126 ribbies, a 605 slugging percentage, who is named your National League Most Valuable Player here in 2028. So we're not going to make an offer to DeGrom, even though ownership wants us to. Still looking for 1 year at $17 million. We're likely going to take a big hit to fan interest when he ultimately departs, which is a bit disappointing, but it is what it is. Willie Castro, who was really good for us as a utility infielder a year ago. We traded back for him before the trade deadline this year, and he was pretty brutal. He's looking for decent money for what he is at this point, $6.5 million a year over 3 years. Can't rule out a reunion with him, especially if things don't ultimately work out with Royce Lewis or a higher-end international free agent. Not going to make an offer to Contreras, as I mentioned. We're intrigued by Spencer Strider. We certainly need to keep an eye on the 3-time defending Cy Young Award winner as well. Contreras looking for about $9 million a year over 3 years. Can't rule out a reunion, but not someone that we are going to guarantee that we bring back next year until we see what the full scope of the free agent market is. So probably not too much going to happen over these next 9 days until we get to the free agency filings, and we'll cross our fingers that there's going to be some interesting guys out there and available. And sometimes things have a way of working out. Royce Lewis actually accepted the qualifying offer. So really like where our infield stands now with him around, and it's just a 1-year deal for us, more than we wanted to pay for that 1 year, but it's not a long-term commitment. Again, we offered him $100 million over 5 years, and he didn't accept that, so it's not intuitive to me why a 1-year deal at $20.3 million is better for him. But feel real good about our infield now as we get ready for free agency to begin, and still think that we're going to have some money to spend. Oh, because I think apparently since we had made the qualifying offer to him, that was already in our money. No, it's not there yet. So, yeah, this is still a bug in the game. And I think it'll get fixed tomorrow when we do those free agency filings. But you can see the $20.3 million that he just opted into for next year has replaced the money that he was making this year, rather than going next year as it should. So still some little quirks with how the information is displayed, not just with contracts where you've guaranteed money for people over time, which we've seen previously around this time of year, but also apparently with the qualifying offers that are accepted. And the number for 2029 as we move to the free agency filings is around $37 million. So we've got money to do in extensions as expected. The $20.3 million from Royce Lewis did port over to 2029, so it seems like things are good on that end. Take a look, I guess, first at the international free agents who are entering the market. It does look like Strider is on the market. Ooh, but I am not seeing Boston get a deal done. It looks like Boston got a deal done with the 3-time defending Cy Young Award winner. Unless for whatever reason they just did not want to list him as one of the top free agents. But right now we're more interested in some of these international free agents. Is there a great answer for us here? And there's a very impressive looking starting pitching prospect in Min-Woo Kim, also known as Knicks, 27-year-old. Ground ball tendencies, throws in the high 90s, fastball, slider, and sinker, all exceptional. Also has a change in a curve, stuff, movement, and control, all well above average. Don't know his personality that well, but it says he works his tail off, so he might have some positive personality traits. We are certainly going to request a scouting report on Min-Woo Kim out of South Korea, and that could be a huge addition to try to make to our team, even though, as we talked about, starting pitching is not necessarily a huge need of ours right now. Bringing on a guy like him is interesting. Edward O'Brien, 27-year-old Aruban, incredible fastball and slider, but we think his control is absolutely putrid. Not even going to spend much time thinking about him. And now we'll get into 6 position players. Is there anyone here who could help us? I think any of these guys other than the first baseman, if they were a superstar or even a star potential, could be interesting for us. Catcher Min Jae Kim, really interesting bat as a catcher. The glove is average-ish, but if that bat is accurate, and he's only looking for $13 million a year, left-handed hitting 33-year-old catcher for a few seasons, could be a interesting addition to our team. Second baseman Tadashi Okuda. Looks like he's only looking for a minor league deal. Don't like some of his personality traits. Don't like that he's going to strike out a ton, but still an interesting guy. We'll offer him a minor league contract right now just to get the discussion going. Whoa. Holy moly. Shortstop Yoshihiko Wakabayashi, also known as Swaney, looking for $43 million a year. The 28-year-old looks awesome defensively and looks pretty awesome offensively as well. Off the charts contact, a great eye, average-ish gap in home run power, but clearly a very interesting player to consider. So there are some very interesting international free agents this year. Wakabayashi, the shortstop, Kim, the catcher, and Kim, the starting pitcher, first and foremost among them. And this is crazy. I don't think Crochet was listed as one of the top free agents, so I just assumed that the Red Sox had signed him. Yeah, I'm not going blind. He just was not on that list, but he is a free agent as well. So with the strength of this class, I guess we can certainly argue that maybe having Lewis opt in was not the best thing that we thought it was. Not that we said it was the best thing, but we thought it was fine a couple of days ago. Maybe it's not so fine. But there is an embarrassment of riches on the free agent market this year. Min-Woo Kim, probably given his age, normal injury proneness, looking for 10 years at almost $40 million a deal, but got to get to know more about him scouting-wise, but he could be huge. Crochet, clearly a great proven major league pitcher, looking for 9 years, almost $50 million a season. Left-hander. And then Spencer Strider, if we wanted to be less ambitious, only looking for 2 years at $14 million a season, basically. So there are 3 very compelling starting pitchers on the market. And again, when I think about our pitching staff right now, and I can move this from what we had in the playoffs to something that looks more realistic. But I like the rotation we have right now with Schwellenbach, Bradley, King, Scott, and Riley. But the types of guys who are on the free agent market are, in the case of Kim and Crochet, better than any starting pitchers that we have right now. And in the case of Spencer Strider, certainly would slot in as a outstanding fourth starter or whatever he ended up being for us. Guys all throw in the high 90s as well. 5-pitch arsenals for Kim and Crochet. There are some very interesting things to think about as far as the pitchers that are available. And honestly, with Wakabayashi and Kim available, some pretty interesting options for position players as well. Kim looks like he could be offensively a big upgrade for us at catcher and not incredibly expensive. Not a long-term solution given that he's going to be 33 years old in a few days. And Wakabayashi just completely takes our infield to another level. I guess if we're thinking about going higher end for a Wakabayashi or for one of the two great starters, Kim or Crochet, we'd have to clear off money. But there's an argument, I think, that you add in Kim at catcher for $13 million and you add in Strider as a pitcher for $13 or $14 million. You're adding two very helpful players without going for those real expensive guys at the top of the market. But getting back to the point that I started to make before I interrupted myself, with the money we have available, if we want to go to the high end of the market, we probably need to trade away somebody. We could trade away Kyle Tucker, certainly. I was thinking Royce Lewis and Joan Duran were the most logical. See what the trade options look like for Duran coming off of a poor season. Oof. And it looks like we may, unfortunately, be largely stuck with Duran. I would have to think that there would be more interest in a Royce Lewis, especially because it's only a one-year commitment where I don't think we're going to get a ton back for him, but I think we could definitely get him off the books without having to take a big contract back. Yeah, you can see there's a lot of options for him, although most of them are pretty expensive. That's interesting. I was definitely misreading that. We can get a pretty big-time player in return for him, but for the most case, we'd have to take some salary back. And while I'm doing it, might as well look at Kyle Tucker in his final guaranteed year, and then he's got a team option after that. I imagine the market for him is probably going to be similar to what we saw for Royce Lewis. Weakest market of all for Kyle Tucker with the money he's making. So interesting decisions ahead. Obviously, I can spend more time than just the obvious trades that we can make for these guys. I guess we could argue that with Royce Lewis on board, we could just move on from Zach Neto, who's starting to make real money. I would think he would have to have the most trade value of any of these guys at 27 years old and making less money than the three that we've talked about. Still a lot of more expensive players coming back, at least as far as the ones that meet our team needs, but there's younger guys with potential as well. So Kevin Alcantara 26-year-old outfielder. Kind of fits the profile that we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. A good versatile fielder, good speed, a bat that looks decent, albeit not great. 76 WRC plus over the course of parts of 4 major league seasons is certainly worse than I'd expect from that profile. Not that I'm expecting him to be a monster, but we could also get Neto off the books most easily, it looks like. Let Royce Lewis become the everyday second baseman. Damages our depth a bit, but getting the $12 million from Neto off the books would certainly put us into a position where we could go after any of those big-time players. So a lot to think about in free agency this year. I like what we've done with the team thus far this offseason. But would certainly love to hear thoughts from the Worldwide Scouting Department on Min-Woo Kim versus Crochet. I mean, I think if Kim's profile comes back to similar to what we think it is, given the fact that he's looking for about $10 million less than Crochet, and he's a couple years younger than Crochet, I think I'm inclined to go with Kim over Crochet. He's a righty rather than a lefty. But if the pitching profile is kind of what we think and the personality is neutral to positive, I think I'd be leading for Kim over Crochet at the high end of the market, but open to thoughts from the Worldwide Scouting Department on that. There is a part of me that says you've got a team that won 102 games. You're not really going to be losing anyone all that significant this offseason. If you add a pitcher like Spencer Strider and then you bring in a catcher like Min-Jae Kim and you don't have to get rid of anybody else, that's a way to make this team better and deeper on a lot of fronts while not robbing Peter to pay Paul by trading away a Lewis or a Tucker or a Neto or a Duran. But then there's also Luis Angel Acuna out there. He's only looking for a minor league contract that becomes worth $1.8 million if promoted. I think he could be a great utility, and well, not a great, but I think he could be a very cost-effective and solid utility infielder for us next year. That's certainly something to consider. But the question is whether, if you trade away Neto and then you go try to sign a Wakabayashi, you can still keep, I guess it would probably be Royce Lewis would stay at second. Wakabayashi becomes your shortstop. And then you're in a situation where if we traded away Neto, you've got Anthony Volpe, who we could train up at some other positions in spring training as a potential super utility guy for us. More focused on the infield, certainly. But there are a lot of interesting permutations that have just come out of the ether and into our reality here in fictional 2028 baseball for us to consider, with the strength of these three guys, Wakabayashi and the two guys named Kim, who are available as free agents. So between Wakabayashi, Min-Woo Kim, Min-Jae Kim, Garrett Crochet, and Spencer Strider, we have some very interesting decisions to consider here in free agency. And if you've got thoughts on what we should do, always like to hear from the Worldwide Scouting Department. Until our next episode, Thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.